Hello, everybody, and thank you for inviting me and inviting us for the Life Lanner project to talk about the project and the results that we had in the last year. This talk comes out of the Action 3, Replication and Transfer, and I'm Carlo Catoni from Onnis Italica, which is a NGO based in Italy and specialized in GPS tracking of birds. So the Lanner Falco, as you surely know, is a rarity in Europe. It breeds only in the Balkan Peninsula and in Italy, where it has uh, the main territories. Today, to date, there are 5 recognized species, of which only one is in Europe, which is Falco biarmicus feldeggi, and of course is a protected species by both European and international regulation. Furthermore, its protection is a priority for the European Life Program. As you see, the distribution of Lanner falcon is in Europe only in the Balkan and in Italy, where most of the pairs are, and then in Northern Africa and in Western Asia, and then, of course, with further subspecies in Central and Southern Africa. The global and the Italian population has been declining for decades at the moment. In the Lazio region, that is where we are working on this project, which is about here, so in central Italy, the Lanner falcon breeding population went from about 15 pairs in the 80s to being extinct, so 0 in 2016. Since then, not a single Lanner falcon has been breeding in Lazio. In total, in Italy, we estimate between 44 and 56 pairs left. And incredibly, before this project, nothing has been done for either reproducing this species in captivity, nor reintroducing this species from captivity, nor any real project of the protection of this species. So this was the distribution of Lanner falcon in the 80s and 90s. So we see a lot of breeding pair in Sicily, in the south, and which used to host about 100 pairs, and then about 70 pairs in mainland Italy, of which about 40 to 50 here in central Italy and about 30 here in southern Italy. This was the situation until 20 years ago, more or less. Now the situation is this. So, of the central Italian population, only 5 pairs are left, 2 in Tuscany, 2 in Abruzzo, and 1 in Marche, nothing in Lazio, nothing in Umbria, which used to host about 20 to 30 pairs in the past. Of the large populations of Puglia and Basilicata, over here, only less than 10 pairs are left, and in Sicily about 30 pairs are left. So the situation is really dramatic. The Life Lanner project aims to implement many of the measurements that are being described in the National Plan for the Species, which has been produced in 2007 and takes place, as I mentioned, in the province of Viterbo in Lazio, so central Italy. Started, as I mentioned, in 2020, so not a good year to start a big project like this. And therefore, we asked for renovation of the project and delay of the project up to 2026. The main coordinator is the Lago di Vico Nature Reserve, which is a nature reserve based in central Italy. And the stakeholders and beneficiaries are the Lazio region, province of Viterbo, IZS, which is Zooprophylactic Institute of Italy, Enel Distribuzione, which is one of the big electricity distributor in Italy, Onnis Italica, which is us, specialized in ornithological studies, and BirdLife Malta. The scientific committee is made of Alexandro Andreotti from ISPRA, Hoada Zoff, an ornithologist from Israel specialized in the introduction of Lanner falcon, Giovanni Leonardi, a specialist of this group, and Marco Martini, a veterinary specialized in reproduction of birds in captivity. These are all the areas where we've been working in the last couple of years. So the Vico Reserve, which is the main beneficiary, Monte Casoli, Valle del Treia, Monte Rufeno, Marturanum, and Tuscania. Marturanum, this one, is one of the most important because in that regional park we are releasing all of our Lanner falcons. So what are we doing? First of all, we readapted our wildlife rescue center, creating hacking towers and breeding facilities for Lanner falcon. There we can breed Lanner falcons and release them in the Marturanum Reserve, where we have been opening hunting areas because in central Italy in particular, in the last few years, we had big problems with agricultural abandonment. So a lot of agricultural fields have been either intensified if the land was good or abandoned. And in this last case, they just were encroached by bushes and macchia, which clearly is not good for this species. We have been then securing electric poles, working on the genetics of Lanner falcons, and of course meeting other projects to exchange opinions and successful techniques. Furthermore, I will talk about all of these later. We've been creating a network of data recovery from rescue centers. We will update the national action plan, and of course, we've been informing the citizen about what we have been doing with different form of media and meeting with the population. So let's talk about the first topic. So we've been breeding Lanner falcon the last 3 years. So after 2 years of unsuccess, we managed to reproduce Lanner falcons in the breeding facility. Lanner falcon is very difficult to breed. It's a very delicate species, very delicate to disturbance. So it's not so easy as peregrines, for example. We host now 6 reproductive pairs in the center. And furthermore, we purchase young Lanner falcons from breeders, of course, certified by CITES, with known genetic parentage. So we have these 5 aviaries that were newly built in Vico. One was existent already, and all equipped with cameras, and we provide careful nutrition, veterinary care, and even flight and hunting training for the birds that are rescued. We built 2 hacking facilities, one in Vico and one in Marturanum, which is, as I mentioned, not so far from there, and is a much warmer area, so more adapt for the release of this species. And we implemented a new technique for hacking, which is so-called social hacking. So they are not isolated from humans, but rather they know the people involved in the hacking, but they are not constant in contact with them, which means they still have a little bit of fear, but not extreme. These produce almost a 100% success rate in the post-release independence in the last 2 years. So a very good success for this technique, which involves not only what I mentioned, but also, thanks to the GPS, the rescuing of the Lanners in difficult conditions right after the release. So we noticed that most of the falcons die in the very first day after the first long flight. And so we rescue them, we bring them back, we feed them back, release again. And after this, usually all of them find independence within 1 or 2 months. This has been very reliable in the last 2 years. And as I mentioned, we had really 100% success, which doesn't mean that they don't die afterwards, of course. But the main causes for death apparently have been electrocution. Half of the birds die for electrocution, and death due to poaching, so shooting in particular. All birds are equipped with a GPS and a VHF transmitters, which help us to relocate the animals if to rescue them, as I mentioned, in the first days after release. And of course, they have regular veterinary care and checkups during the growth. So these are, for example, the tracks of the Lanner falcons of this year, of 2025. So we had 2 Lanners moving north. This one was one of that was rescued. So that's the highway where when we rescued him. 2 Lanners went north. One remained here. The blue one remained close to the release area, and one was here in the south, and one was in San Marino. Here in the south, this bird was using a very important breeding area, which is here, which is close to Crati, and then the Murge National Park. Unfortunately, this bird then was died by electrocution in early December. Yeah, electrocution. So one part of the project is to identify lines and poles with the highest risk of electrocution. Of course, we cannot save all Lanners, and in the project we mentioned to protect, to secure 200 poles. We did 363, so more than 80% more than what was planned, but clearly that's not enough for this species and for many other species that die for electrocution in the area, in the country actually. I guess the same thing happens in several different areas of Europe, and this definitely is a problem that must be taken into big concern by researchers. Another part of the project, as I mentioned, was to open small areas, around 100 hectares, 150 in total, but we managed yet 100, of bushy areas to provide new feeding areas for the species. So in particular, this area was cleared very close to the release facilities, so that the young Lanner falcons could practice hunting in open areas right after the release. Our partners from IZS made a genetic analysis of 156 samples of Lanner falcons, sakers, and peregrine falcons, and they sequenced all these species, and they placed everything in the national genetic database and published the results. As we see with these loci that they studied, the Feldegg subspecies is equivalently distant to the other subspecies as to the Falco kerruk, so the saker falcon, so a very distant subspecies. Then we created a database and from a network of rescue centers. So 38 rescue centers have joined and started sharing data. So we have so far 342 records, mainly peregrines, but we even have 4 Lanner falcons. Finally, every year monitoring has been carried out, not only in the breeding areas of the last breeding areas known from Lazio region, but also in the most suitable areas based on a suitability model that we realized a couple of years ago. And in 2023, we performed and sponsored a nationwide census with 13 regions involved, all of them that were previously hosting the species. In the census, only 44 pairs were counted. Many of these pairs were not breeding, were just started breeding but were not successful. And considering that in the past, in the just 20 years ago, there were between 140 and 170 pairs. So we're talking about a decrease of 60 to 70% in just 20 years. This data is included, of course, in the reports that we provided to the LIFE project. Then we performed a training course for park rangers in the Lazio region, and we provided an online video to help distinguish Lanner falcons to peregrine falcons. Finally, of course, dissemination. So we have a website. We published 72 articles in online in journals and newspapers. We had show in TV national channel Rai 3 with over 1 million viewers. We had a conference about wildlife rescue centers, and we had the first national meeting about Lanner falcons in November 2024. So long-term effect. The techniques to release them allowed us to increase the wild population of Central Italy. Of course, as I mentioned, they are dying for electrocution and shooting, so this is not going to help. Most of the released falcons died about that because of that. So, but we are understanding what is the cause of the decrease of this beautiful species. The genetic characterization allows us to recognize the recovered specimens. And of course, we aim to open more areas in the future, hopefully with some different projects. Furthermore, we hope to increase the awareness about this species from the public opinion, and to update the national action plan that should improve public knowledge to protect the species. We are also releasing the guidelines about the hacking technique, and I hope you will follow us on social network that is going to be updated soon. Thank you very much. I thank you for listening to me. I hope I didn't talk too much, and thank you for this opportunity, and I wish you a good prosecution of the conference. Goodbye.